Okay. Should I read a biography of Bhante?
I think probably
Do it,
everybody.
Piotrek. Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
And I will just start the meeting with reading Bhikkhu Sambodhi biography. And Venerable Sambodhi was born in the mid-60s in what was then known as Czechoslovakia and what is now the Czech Republic, one of the most irreligious countries in the world. Raised as an atheist with an initial strong bent toward hard science, he eventually ended up graduating in math and physics. The subsequent postgraduate study of psychology, a soft science, led him to encounter Buddhist meditation for the first time in 1992. He then abandoned psychology and worked as a journalist, a translator, and a publishing house editor for 6 years, while pursuing the Buddha's path of the Dhamma as a lay practitioner. In 1995, though, he went to Burma for the first time and for the 10 months practiced Vipassana meditation in Mahasiego Meditation Center in Yangon, while being temporarily ordained as a monk. His subsequent ordination as a bhikkhu took place in 2000 in Pa'auk Forest Monastery in Lower Burma, where he underwent intense training in samatha meditation for 2 years. He then moved to Sri Lanka, where he spent on and off 12 years and was mostly associated with the forest tradition of Galduva. A few of those years were also spent in solitude, in simple solitary huts in the area called La Galla. Besides association with both Burmese and Sri Lankan traditions, he also spent considerable time in Western monasteries of Langporcha lineage, where he benefited tremendously from their teachings. All right, thank you. And Bhante, I give voice to you. And thank you for being there with us.
Okay. So I just wanted to suggest at the beginning that if you can turn maybe a video on, maybe not now for meditation, but later, it would be helpful. It's much easier for me to teach when I actually have at least some feedback and some contact with those to whom I teach. Just empty computer screen is not very motivating and inspiring. Well, I can talk to myself as well, but better to talk to someone. Anyway, now for meditation, maybe it's not so necessary, but if it's at all possible later for you, for most of you to turn the video on, that would be good. So I thought, so we should, we might have first this group meditation, right, for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then maybe a few words to inspire you for your own practice. And then we could have a Q&A session. I hope it will be possible to actually, for you to ask questions directly instead of writing them in a chat. I think it should be possible always for a person who wants to ask to turn microphone on and ask, and then because last time I need there are questions for which I would need more information from people and I could not get it, so then I could not really reply fittingly. Okay, so that's the program. So now a few words before we start meditating. It was only in about the last 2 years that I realized how useful it is to have some, these similes or metaphors. Buddha in his teachings quite often used various similes to convey the meaning. And only in about last 2 years, I began to use them quite extensively, simply to convey to my mind the correct attitude towards meditation, towards practice. When I realized all those mistakes, and I also realized how deeply they are ingrained, I began to always call up these images or metaphors to mind at the beginning of every sitting. So one of the main images which I mentioned last time is this image of growing trees. Like I like to imagine 5 faculties, which are mental qualities that we are trying to develop in meditation, in bhavana. So these 5 faculties, I imagine them as 5 tree seedlings. Now, helpful it is to visualize them planted in a square. The central faculty of sati or presence, that's a tree in the middle of this square, and these other 4 faculties are like in corners of that square around sati. So there is a tree called saddha or faith in one corner. Then the opposite corner is panya or discernment or wisdom. And then the other 2 corners opposite of each other is stillness and virya, effort or energy. And in the middle is faculty of presence. So these 5 trees. And now we need to find the right way to nurture those trees so that they grow nicely and become healthy trees. But we cannot grow them straight, right? We cannot grow them ourselves, right? Like trees, we cannot grow trees. We can just make sure they have right conditions, but then you just have to let them grow. So with these faculties, it's same. This image is attempt to prevent the mind to make wrong kind of effort. There is in many meditators in the background of the mind, there is some kind of almost idea that it's us, it's them who is making enlightenment or making the mindfulness grow. So this image simply sets if this image is brought to one's mind, then the mind is more likely to make the right kind of effort. So I suggest you close your eyes, and I will just, as I did last time, I will keep describing what I am doing, and as you are listening to it, you may decide to do the same thing if it makes sense to you, instead of myself giving orders, do this or do that. Okay, so I close my eyes, and then I make sure that my sitting posture is reasonably comfortable. And I simply direct my attention to how I feel inside this body, how this body feels. General central feeling somewhere in the middle of the chest. And then sensations around the body. How this straight posture of the trunk, how it feels, how it is maintained. This slight tension along the muscles, along the spine, how they keep the body straight. Then shoulders. If there is any unnecessary tension in the shoulders, I just try to relax them as much as possible. If the central feeling feels like there is a little bit of stress, then I use deeper breath to deepen the relaxation. It means I take a little bit deeper in breath, and then with the out breath, I use that sense of out breathing for deepening of the relaxation, for bringing more peace into the heart. And then I go with attention to legs, see whether there is any extra unnecessary tension in muscles, and I try to relax my legs as much as possible. How do I feel inside this body? All sorts of sensations which tell me how this body is doing, how it is placed in the space. Even with closed eyes, I can clearly perceive the position of various parts of the body. I can feel my arms, forearms, hands, how they are touching, legs. This body is like home for this mind. And no matter what kind of feelings there are in the body, whether pleasant or unpleasant, I just try to accept them and see them as they are. Also, if various sensations in the body seem to be not distinct enough, like difficult to notice or watch, I don't try to make them more distinct, more satisfactory. It may be that maybe I don't feel the body at some moment at all. And even that is okay. Sometimes the body can completely disappear and we cannot find any sensation, and just mind in the middle of space. And that's okay. This is changing, how distinctly or strongly we perceive various parts of the body that can keep changing. Sometimes it's easy to watch, sometimes you cannot find much there, but just that which is there, that's enough. And briefly, I may bring in this image of growing plants just to refresh which 5 faculties I am trying to develop or trying to support in their growth: faith, energy, presence, stillness, and discernment. And I can bring this picture of 5 growing trees, and central among them is presence. That's what I am making the right kind of effort to maintain and support in growing. So presence. Presence is most important one, and the effort to be present. That's the core. So I may decide to choose one of the sensations of the body, like sensation of breath, in breath and out breath. And I'm using this as foundation for developing presence. So I just know clearly when in-breath is happening, then that it is happening. I know how it begins, how it ends, and then how the sensation changes to sensation of out breathing. And knowing these sensations, and at the same time I'm knowing that I'm knowing them, which is presence. Is happening in the present moment. And that's it. And not doing anything else. Just by maintaining this presence, that's enough. And how quickly presence strengthens and grows, and how quickly energy, effort develops, and all the rest, that's not up to me. Just maintaining the presence and just keeping presence in mind, which also means remembering to be present. So effort goes mostly to remembering to be present as with the breath, as breath is happening. And as I am observing breath, knowing that I'm there, which means knowing that the presence is present. If it happens that something else comes to attracts my attention, I know that that's okay as long as I know about it, as long as I maintain presence, as long as I'm not lost in it. So basically, even though I use the breath process or experience of breathing as focus, I'm not afraid of possibility of the mind to stray away. Straying away from the breath is not a problem as long as I know about it. So I just basically take a step back, watch the breath, and I'm not obsessed, with the idea that I have to stay just with that breath. And if I stray away from the breath, that's mistake, that's fault. No mistake, again, the stillness of attention cannot be forced, cannot be developed by compulsion and by trying. It also grows as a tree. So as presence grows by itself, as long as we maintain it, so in the same way, the attention gradually gets to still point and stills itself, and this stillness grows like a plant. How quickly, that's not up to us to decide, and increasing, struggle to develop stillness quickly, that's not helpful. Even stillness of attention with the breath can grow like a tree. And when the sitting meditation has come to close, I may at first enjoy last few breaths, valuing the time which I have at my disposal to pay attention to this most central life process. And then I shift attention again to the whole body and try to become fully aware how I feel inside this body, which is the home to this mind for this lifetime. The central feeling in the middle, the trunk, the arms, legs, the body as a whole. Then I check whether I can become aware of any smell, any taste inside the mouth, sounds, and then I can slowly open my eyes and become fully aware of sights, visual objects around. And then, then I may continue with whatever I intend to do while maintaining presence. The ideal is to keep being present throughout the rest of the life, not just within formal meditation. I just realized from last time, I think I mentioned also another metaphor or image. I compared meditation to learning to play musical instrument. So later I realized that actually with meditation it's a little bit better than with the musical instrument, because you cannot play violin while doing other things, but you can practice meditation while doing basically anything. So it's more hopeful with the meditation than with trying to play or learn to play a musical instrument. Nevertheless, it's very similar process. You know, in meditation, the goal gradually we are developing skills and these mental qualities which enable us to be aware more and more clearly what is happening, what this life is about, what the existence is about, what consciousness is about, and so on. I'm kind of amazed when I sometimes hear various professors talking about consciousness, and they always have to bring in a brain, you know, when they discuss consciousness, they always have brain, like model of brain in the hand, and they somehow talk about brain and then consciousness and what? There is no connection usually. And I'm just amazed that they really think they can understand consciousness by studying brain instead of just observing consciousness as it is happening in this moment. So that's what we are doing in this practice, in this meditation. Basically, goal is to really come to know what the life, what the consciousness is about, what it is. And that's not easy because we don't have two consciousnesses. We don't have one consciousness which we could use to watch the other consciousness. We have just one, you know. So it's very tricky how this consciousness can observe itself. Well, it cannot. it's always consciousness in this moment, looking a little bit back to consciousness which was there the moment ago. And this is basically what sati, or which is what I call presence, is slightly looking back one moment at the consciousness. You know, so the consciousness in this moment is looking back in the previous consciousness. So it's not easy to condition this kind of thing to be happening more and more. That is why it takes some time. Anyway, I just thought before I start talking more to give you opportunity to ask questions if you have, and also if whoever, if it's not too much, if you could turn the video on, unless you have serious reason like bad connection or something, or privacy concern. So then it's okay, then don't turn it on, but if at all possible, please turn the video on so that I know whom I'm talking to. So anyway, any question about this meditation or about what has been said so far? I don't know how this would technically be possible or organized.
Yeah, now people can ask questions if you like to meditation. So don't be shy.
How would a person make it clear that he or she wants to ask questions? Is there any tool, or would they have to like wave, or how is it done normally? I don't know.
I think they can just you know, turn the mutation
Microphone
off and then just ask the question.
Start talking. I see. Okay.
There are also reactions. You can activate reaction hand on.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I can ask a question. So because lately I practice a meditation that is a little bit different, because it's like Buddha Anusati, Dhamma Anusati, which is you know, I try to just imagine the Buddha and to like feel his heart qualities, like you know, contentment, compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom, and just you know, try to let my mind absorb this feeling of being there with this let's say states of mind, and I just observe the mind as it's deepening. So it's a little bit different because it doesn't base on like material object like the breath. It's just like more mental meditation. So do you think that this presence practice can be incorporated in such a meditation as well?
Yes, definitely. It's always present. You know, no matter what object you use, it's always present. Or the goal is always develop the presence. And you can use any object from basically any sense, or any of the six senses. You know, so the sixth sense also. And even with the breath, eventually you realize that the mental image of the breath is there, even if you watch the physical sensation of the breath, the mental image is there. It's a little bit similar like with optical object. You know, if you look at something and close your eyes, you can see that sort of image of it in your mind for a short while, you know, like mental image of it. So with a visual object, it's easy because you can easily shut off vision. You know, you close eyes and then you see, you have a little bit like in your mind, you can still see that thing, you know, before it disperses. With the growing samadhi concentration, this mental image becomes more stable. So then if you develop or allow stillness, samadhi to develop more and more, then this image, when you close eyes, it stays there longer, you know. And when it's close to full concentration, then you can keep image in your mind basically as long as you like, and it's almost as clear as if you looked at it with your eyes. So if it, in the case of Buddhanusati, in PAOK, in this Burmese monastery where I was, it was recommended to basically look at image of a Buddha, you know, like photograph or statue, close eyes and keep this image in your mind, and you focus on that. And you can keep help to maintain this mental image of the Buddha's statue or whatever, even just imagination. You can imagine Buddha. So it would be also okay. It's like mental image. And you can help it by reflecting on Buddha's qualities. You know? So you basically, well, they recommended to choose one of those traditional qualities. You know, so many monks in PAOK, in this Burmese monastery, they used araham, so they repeat araham while watching. You know, so by repeating this mantra like araham, it helps to remind mind what it should be doing. In Thailand, they use Buddha. You know. Yeah, so with breath, it's similar with this mental image of physical sensation, but it's more difficult to see it because you cannot shut off physical sensations. You know, they are still there. So you cannot differentiate mental image of physical sensation from physical sensation itself. So it takes some time until samadhi develops and basically physical sensations start fading away, and the mental image of them becomes more prominent. So then that's quite good to get to this stage.
Okay, thank you. And, so can I like have follow-up question? Because it's nice you speak about this, because I was always confused by this Buddhanusati or Kasina practice, because in the breath meditation it's simpler in a way because you have only like one physical object where you set your presence. But in both Buddhanusati or Kasina meditation, you have to have both like visualization of the image, for example, of the Buddha, and to dwell on the quality. And the same with Kasina, for example, you visualize water and then you say water, water, and you go into this quality. So in breath meditation, it's simpler in a way because you have only one thing so samadhi is like this one-pointedness, but in the Buddhanusati, you have two qualities. One is a visual image and one is the quality. So samadhi, how do you develop samadhi? On both, on one? How do you connect this?
Well, as I understand it, it's like only beginning stage that you keep these two things, you know, like repeating araham or like a big, like framework, you know, like picture. Like so frame of the picture is this araham, this quality which you keep in mind. But as I understand it, actually, the mental image of the Buddha is central, is main object. And as meditation and samadhi grows, as once this object, mental image is stable, you can forget this other thing. You know, this is like only aid at the beginning. With, for instance, with metta, I also was quite confused for a long time. Metta, what is meditation object there? You know, so it's actually the person is meditation object, not metta. Feeling of metta. I always focused on feeling of metta, but it's actually the recipient of metta or mental image of that person is meditation object, and you basically watch it with this quality of metta in mind. You know, so it's like, but you don't focus on that quality.
Well, but that's interesting because that you speak about this metta, because in the suttas it's usually like, you know, to all beings, and this is so abstract you cannot really like put it in mind. So
the teacher whom I asked about it said that you start with just one person first, and then this kind of mental image of all beings, what it is, you know. But with the growth of samadhi, this becomes very easy. Basically, you can create any nimitta you like, you know. And so even you say, once the mind is focused and powerful, you can say just all beings, and immediately you have image in the mind. And you just, okay, all beings. Concept. It's not like a shape, you know, it's just, you know, it is there in the mind, and you know, it's all beings, you know? And then you just focus on it, and you know that there is this quality of metta in your heart. It's like watching a person while feeling love for them, you know. So it's same with you do this with this mental image of all beings. Sometimes you say all beings and you see crowd, you know, immediately in the mind crowd appears. So okay, it's okay. But eventually it becomes more like unified, but it's still all beings. So it's like concept.
Okay, can I have one more question about meditation in general? That it's confusing. Is also that when I meditate longer, there comes a moment where I start seeing like the visual field is starting to vibrate, and it's like moving around, and it's not like a light or something, but it's like the very fabric of experience is starting to, you know, whirling, and it's also a little bit felt in the tactile sensations as pleasant, and sometimes it's also accompanied, if it's go deeper, that by some like tingling sound. And I always wondered if this is this prana energy, this some breath meditation as like mental object. So do you think it's like mental object of breath, or what is that?
Mm-hmm. Various things and sensations may arise. The task is simply to be aware of it, you know. Sometimes when you hear talks about nimittas, you know, Ajahn Brahm talking about amazing blisses and nimittas, and you know exactly what is supposed to happen, then there is even unconsciously there is craving and wish to have it, you know, and then the mind has a tendency to make it happen. And that's a big problem, you know. That's what I told actually to Ajahn Brahm, that, you know, he was joking about it. I said, well, if one listens to many Dhamma talks about those amazing blisses, then it's very difficult to prevent craving for them to arise, you know. And Ajahn Brahm laughed and said, yes, there is this problem there, but, you know, he thinks that it's necessary to fight for revival of jhana practice. So that is why he's talking about it so much. And he also has this idea of carrot for a donkey, you know. He talks about those jhanas, and he thinks that he can use it like carrot, and meditators, when they want it, they will actually practice it, practice what he wants them to practice. But unfortunately, I think it doesn't work, you know. You need to forget about carrots, basically. To be able to, the fastest way to jhana is to forget about jhana. And fastest way to get nimitta is to forget about nimitta. And if there is a craving for nimitta, try to not to want to nimitta, you know. I don't want nimitta. to hell with the nimitta, you know. I'm just happy with what I have. I don't need anything else, you know. Breath, comfortable breath, that's enough, fine. I don't need anything else. And it's actually also good to remind myself, you actually don't need nimitta before stream entry. So just go for stream entry. Forget about about these special, you know, visions and so on. But if they happen, it's okay. You know, just whatever is happening in the body or in the mind, visions, lights, flashes of I don't know, lightning or whatever. Yeah, just be aware of it. You know, it's mental sensation from this sixth sense, and yeah, it's coming, sometimes going away. It doesn't matter. Basically, at this stage, most of us, for what is really important is to maintain presence. And if we do, the power of the mind starts growing, and eventually all these things start happening more often, you know. But again, it's like a trap of Mara. You must maintain the same balance and same attitude and setting of the mind just to keep being present. And if the presence is strong enough, you may add this stillness. So you choose just one object and stay with it, still maintaining presence, but also maintaining the attention with this just one object, which is stillness or samadhi, you know. And the effort which enables you to maintain this, that's virya. So you have these three faculties there. And the other saddha and discernment, they come after. You know, once these three in the middle are strong enough, then saddha naturally develops, and discernment or panya also. So this is the task. If you start allow yourself to be distracted by special events, you know, that slows you down.
Yeah, I ask because this is last question, because I have this.
No. Nobody else asks, so it's okay.
Because you know, it's very stable for me. It happens almost immediately at the start of every meditation, and I called it like the cloud of energy. And actually, it's probably the most stable thing in my life. So I usually go to it as a kind of samatha practice, because in the body I can find much peace, and I think I'm much more, you know, suited to meditate with the sixth sense than any of the five senses. So I'm still deciding whether should I go like to samadhi practice on this, let's say, cloud of energy, or should I just focus on some like practice like this Buddha Nusati with visualization, because I think for me like this sixth sense is more calming and stable than trying to focus on the breath, which always it just doesn't work for me very well.
I see. Yeah, there is also a problem a little bit with the people who are gifted in samatha, you know, because yeah, there is this tendency to go to these peaceful areas of experiencing in the mind because it's pleasant. They don't want to deal with the unpleasant breath or unpleasant physical sensations, and if it happens that they do develop deep states of samadhi, it's extremely difficult for them to turn to vipassana. So I think that is why in Burma, in those like 50 years ago, in 50s, they started discouraging samatha and started talking about this bare vipassana and vipassana movement, you know, because they could probably they encountered many cases of, in Burma it's more often, you know, the people with the samatha, good strong samatha, that it's basically impossible to convince those people once they develop a strong samadhi. It's impossible to convince them they should also contemplate dukkha. So there is danger there, you know. This is also what happened to Devadatta, you know, and many other cases of those who happened to be strong in samatha, and then this power, energy of samatha very easily feeds into defilements, you know, so it makes defilements stronger. This is what happens with Devadatta. He went completely crazy, right? He thought he could take over from Buddha, and he thought he could kill him, and all of that. And you can see examples even at our times, you know, sometimes. Yeah, so yeah, be careful. If you also practice yoga, right? And pranayama.
Not much, honestly, but a little asanas for, you know, for health and good.
Yeah, that's okay.
The body.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so I would suggest, you know, to do it half, you know, half pleasant states, and half of the time try to go into the body and see the pain and see how mind responds, you know, and see this the aversion to it, you know, like the tendency to hide, you know, in these peaceful states. So I would say balance it. Otherwise, you will go astray. You will go into You might go. I don't know.
Equanimity towards the body when you do this.
Yeah, definitely. At least half of the time you should spend with the physical sensations and seeing what is pleasant, what is unpleasant, and how the mind responds towards the pain. I know the breath. I always find it very, or quite often, terribly unsatisfactory because it keeps changing. And also the outer world. It's so unreliable. The mind has this tendency to grab something and hold it and try to keep it stable. And nothing is like that, So yeah, from time to time, mind gets into this state of being averse to changing physical sensation. Nevertheless, this is the right perception, because it is like that. It's completely difficult to grab, to keep stable or anything. It's impossible. So this is what the Buddha was talking about, right? It's dukkha. And the samatha, strong samatha, can create this illusion that there is something stable and there is this tendency to go there.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very interesting perspective, especially because Ajahn Brahm, I think Ajahn Brahm teaches, like, if you practice samatha with metta together, then this metta would prevent you from becoming like Devadatta. This is how I understand this, but
no. You can ask Ajahn Brahm how many monks experience jhana in Bodhinyana, over those 30 years. I think it's nobody actually, it's just him. So he doesn't have experience with a seeing number of people having jhanas and seeing that it's safe. He doesn't have this, So, and example of Devadatta and many others shows that there is actually danger in jhanas. And I see it. I encountered number of monks, and I can see even in my mind how easily it is when samatha works. And at least in the past, recently, I didn't see this, but like 5-6 years ago, when it happened that samatha was strong, I could see immediately conceit arising in the mind. The mind tends to become conceited about it, and I see it in others also.
Yeah, I agree that perception of pain is very humbling. So thank you, Bhante. Thank you. Maybe someone else has some question. Jakub puts the hand up, so please turn on your mic. Yes.
Yes. Can I be heard?
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
So I've got a question about the modes you have in different situations of your life and in meditation. When I start meditation and to meditate in a short amount of time, I become very peaceful and very much comes very clear to me. And I feel like, wow, this is something I want to maintain through my whole time. But when the meditation ends, it's like going to the crowdy place, and this turns out and that turns out, and they are becoming very important, and it's like another mode. One mode is in meditation. That is very clear to me. Everything becomes clear. And other mode is besides the meditation, and many things become important that I know that in meditation they are not important. Thank you very much.
Yeah. The goal is to be present continuously, through the rest of the life. That's what Arahat is this stage is about. You know, someone who attains full enlightenment is present for the rest of their existence. So we cannot reach this stage, if we aspire for it, by just meditating or trying to maintain presence only in formal meditation. So eventually the goal is to be present throughout the whole day and the whole life. But yes, it's tricky. In formal meditation with closed eyes, it appears to be quite easy, but when we open eyes and start moving, it suddenly becomes much more difficult. And it looks like we cannot do it. And also, when we encounter different experiences throughout the day, the mind is drawn to maybe pleasant objects and so on. And for some time, it may start considering these other experiences as important. So our task is simply to notice it, to be aware of it, you know. So throughout the day, sometimes the mind may be swept by experiences and then goes back to old habits. So for instance, you walk down the street and you pass the, I don't know, it's just example, you know, pass the shop window with some sweets and you decide to go in and have some sweet treat. But at some point the mind remembers and starts reflecting, you know, and realizes, now I have craving for this taste, you know. So from that point, you can once the mind remembers, from that point, you can go back and reestablish the right practice, you know. So this is natural, and it's also very important to understand that there is nothing wrong with this, you know. There is nothing wrong with our feelings that outside of meditation, when there is so many people and so on, so basically very difficult to maintain this presence, mode of presence. But that's where training lies. And keeping in mind that the task is not to be, or the effort is not to be continuously present, but the task is to re-establish presence whenever we remember. You know? So yeah, mind forgets, you forget for 1 hour or 2 hours, or maybe the whole day, you just do things and don't know what you are doing. And but at some point, the mind remembers, presence, you know, you remember that you should be present. So from that point, you decide to maintain it. Nothing else can be done, actually. Because then the mind forgets, you cannot do anything. If you forget, what can you do? But you lose it only not when the mind forgets to be present. You lose it only when you remember, and then you give up. You said, no, this is impossible, forget about it. I just wait until I have time to sit down with closed eyes. So that's where people make mistake, you know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think there will be also opportunity to ask questions at the end. Maybe I just say a few words. Many ideas came into my mind, and I realized that one of the important things is not to overload people with too much information, you know. So not to talk about too many things. And basically, the best thing is to talk only about one thing, and that is about the most important thing. Now, to know what is most important thing to talk about is very difficult for someone who cannot read other people's minds, because everybody is different, and for everyone, something else is most important to hear at any moment. And also, it's even more difficult if we are seeing each other only through this technology. You know, if we are not in a direct contact. When you meet a group of people like directly, then one can get some feeling. You know, if you communicate with them, one can get some feeling what they need to hear. But anyway, I just yeah. So it's always a little bit like guessing. But so there are some things which in my experience, people need to hear most of the time, and most of them. So I just thought I would clarify or try to explain what this path and what this meditation is about. I will probably repeat some little elements which I was talking about last time, but it doesn't matter. It will be like variation. So I think it's correct to describe the path that the Buddha was teaching as path of knowledge, you know. And we are trying to come to know ourselves, what the experience is about, what the life is about, and what the consciousness is about. Without consciousness, it makes no sense to talk about existence. You know, this is a kind of very ridiculous thing what the Western science is doing, that they are imagining that this material world, universe, exists even without consciousness. So even if, you know, that's what they think, you know, Big Bang, and there was nobody, no beings there, and no awareness that was aware of that universe, and then the matter existed without any awareness of it, you know. So no memory, no knowledge of what went before and what went after, and so on. To me, it's completely ridiculous. You know, without consciousness, there is no existence. There is no that makes no sense to talk about matter independent of consciousness. So that's what we are trying to discover for ourselves. And the whole teaching of the Buddha is devoted to this end. And all the elements that the Buddha was teaching are designed to support, you know, this development of the knowledge of the present moment, you know, of the present experience. So Buddha had discovered this path and realized fully what the existence, this existence is about, and what the core of the problem of existence is about. And as you know, when he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, when he became the Buddha, he even was discouraged from teaching what he had discovered. I kind of understand why. Anyway, fortunately for us, he realized, he was persuaded to at least try, and he realized that there were beings mature enough to understand. So he developed all these teachings, and he used these lists of various terms as tools. The lists are there for us to use as tools that help us to develop the knowledge of ourselves and of the world and of life and of consciousness. So everything that the Buddha taught needs to be incorporated in our practice. So you probably know this Dana, Sila, Bhavana. One of the lists, one of the kind of very technical and philosophical sounding term is epistemological matrices, you know, the matrices of gaining knowledge or for gaining knowledge. So yeah, for us to be able to develop this path fully, we need to incorporate as many elements of the Buddha's teachings as possible. So definitely generosity is important, and maintaining virtue, 5 precepts at least, is also important. And then there is this bhavana, mental training or cultivation. It's better to translate bhavana as cultivation as opposed to meditation, because I think it conveys better what we mean, that it's basically not a process that is limited only to formal setting, formal meditation. And in bhavana, we are trying to set conditions in such a way that those five faculties, 5 mental qualities, they grow and develop. And through this development of these 5 faculties, it makes it possible for the mind to understand itself, to understand what is going on, and eventually also to not only to see that quality which is basically in the very fabric of experience and of existence, this quality called dukkha. It's through the development of these 5, the very faculties, which that make it possible for the mind to observe itself, you know. And we need to develop these 5 faculties not only like separately, but they need to be developed in harmony with themselves, among themselves. They support each other, and only when they are in balance, they are each of them developed enough, but also cooperating well and balancing each other. Only then this sets conditions in such a way that the mind is capable of watching basically itself. You know, the consciousness watches itself. It's very tricky because, as I said before, we have only one consciousness. So how can, it's like trying to see oneself, you know, without mirror, or trying to lift oneself, you know, like it cannot be done. So we need to lift oneself, we need to like external support, but with consciousness it's not as easy, and we need to basically develop this amazing unique quality of sati, which I prefer to translate as presence, but I also understand very well why Buddha chose this word sati, which means memory, because it's actually memory, as I think a little bit suggested at the beginning, because it's always there is always one consciousness at any moment. So it can be only looking slightly back. So it's like remembering the moment that has just passed. And this is not something natural that would happen just by itself. You know, it does require training, and the assistance of those other 4 faculties is necessary for this quality to grow strong enough to be able to penetrate. Then there is quality of samadhi or stillness, makes the mind powerful and penetrative. So then, yeah, there is this cooperation of all these 5 faculties, in this task of coming to know and understand what is going on. Now I thought I was thinking of also sharing with you another metaphor or image which I developed for my own use. I need to turn on this virtual background. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So, okay. So this is Shwedagon Pagoda. Do you know where it is? It's in Burma. It's in the capital in Yangon. They have this Shwedagon Pagoda. It's kind of as important monument in Burma for Theravada practitioners in Burma as it is for Catholics. I think St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome in Vatican. You know, so this is kind of very important for them. And I find this shape also very useful because it shows, it can serve as a model of samsara. You know, the Buddha said the number of beings that are reborn in lower realms is much bigger than later. So it's like the model of samsara. It can be used. But it can be also used to demonstrate what we are doing in meditation. This is another image. Basically, like developing this path of knowledge is like building this kind of monument, pagoda. We may have built some of it already in past lives, but we don't know. But anyway, when we start, we need to build this kind of very high structure. We need to make sure that foundation is strong and wide enough. So every act, I sort of imagine every act of generosity is like one brick put into the foundation. You know? every time we say no to tendency to break one of the 5 precepts, and for us monks to 5 the other precepts, when we say no, it's again another break. any time we remember to be present and we do decide to make effort, you know, to right kind of effort to be present, that's another break. So in this way we are basically putting breaks, and we need to keep doing it. You know, not like that it's possible through some magic or trick or so to build this whole building quickly. I think what many meditators, I believe in Burma also, and also in Westerners, when they go for these intense retreats, what they are doing there is, if they had not practiced in past lives a lot, so if they had not already built this lower part of the building, and if they go there with the idea that if they try hard, they can succeed quickly. It's like trying to build this pagoda on a very narrow foundation. You know, so you can do it. You can do it for some time. You know, if you start just with narrow foundation and try to go up quickly, you can do it, but only to some point. And when you reach a critical point, then the whole thing falls down because the foundation is not strong enough. You know. So this is kind of image also to, I think, is useful to bring into mind to get proper perspective and proper understanding of what this meditation is about, and not to prevent trying to achieve something which cannot be achieved, which is impossible, basically. Yeah. So every person is different, and every person probably, if they come to meditation in this life, very likely that they already practiced something in the past, and that is why this past karma brought them to teachings. But how much, that's different for everyone, and we don't know. So if it happens for someone that they already built much of this building in the past lives, so when they come to it in this life, it can go up quite quickly. But if this foundation is not there, we need to keep building it in this life. So every little embodiment, act of generosity, act of self-restraint, you know, saying no to tendency to act in wrong ways, and every act of presence and making effort to be present is like putting bricks, and we need to putting them if we wish to build this kind of quite beautiful building. So that's another useful image that I have developed. Yeah, so I suppose I have run out of themes. I think that's enough. Are there any questions?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I have one question because it was. Can you hear me, Bhante?
Yeah.
I have the one question because it was very interesting. You said that samadhi can lead to defilements, and it's like a little bit of mind blowing for me, because like samatha should be like this very wholesome state. So how this can happen that samatha can lead to defilements?
You know, I think there is good reason why Buddha placed samadhi only at the end of the Eightfold Path. You know, there is this sutta where Buddha says, right noble concentration with its supports and its requisites. And the supports and requisites of right noble concentration are the first 7 factors of the path. So I think the reason is that we really need to have those seven factors first before we embark, I would say, on devoted and dedicated samatha practice. And yeah, sometimes it is thought, I think Ajahn Brahm also thinks that that basically jhana only happens if you have those 7 factors. You know, I think there is a misunderstanding of logic there. I think what the Buddha was saying in that sutta is that jhana counts as samadhi only if it is preceded by those 7 factors. But it's possible to get jhana without those 7 factors. You know, it's possible. Even the Siddhartha Gautama, when he was 6 years old, he did have experience of the first jhana, and he didn't practice those 7 factors before. You know, so it's possible to have strong samadhi without the whole Eightfold Path. And we know that jhanas had been practiced even before the Buddha. Ajahn Brahm takes it into question, but I think there is no question that even in Hinduism, some of the monks who are known to have psychic powers and all of that, you know, strong. It's not difficult to discover the samatha way of meditation. You know, it's not difficult. I remember even as a child, I had some like spontaneous experience with samatha, and when I was 17, I also spontaneously went into really strong samatha state for some time without any meditation. You know. But this is not. This doesn't count as right noble samadhi if it's not preceded by those 7 factors. And I've also find it surprising, but I can, as I said, I can see it in my mind, because through the samatha, the mind becomes very powerful. You know, it gains sort of power, really. And if it's not right, if the foundation of virtue and the right view, especially right view, if it's not there, then this power can really be channeled into defilements. Also in the suttas, actually, Buddha mentions it's in Majjhima Nikaya, in Upali Sutta maybe. Yeah, it was spoken to a householder, where Buddha mentions this householder came to the Buddha because he was a very strong supporter of Jains, you know, the so he went to see the Buddha because he wanted to defeat him. You know, he prepared some questions and he hoped to quote him in contradictions. So this, yeah, I think it was Upali Sutta. And the Buddha asked him, okay, there are these 4 areas which were in the past were populated cities, and now there is just jungle there. And how it happened, how this happened. And the Buddha says these populated cities in the past were turned into ashes through single mental act of hate on the part of seers. You understand?
Oh,
in the past, the Buddha seers like yogis, you know, the non-Buddhist meditators, you know, some ascetics, you know, at the Buddha's time, some non-Buddhist disciples resorted into jungle, you know, stayed there for a few months, meditated, developed strong samadhi, and then they gained such a power of the mind that they were able, through the focused mind, to turn a populated city into a heap of ashes through single mental act of hate, you know. So this power can really like be channeled if the mind is not strong, if this foundation was not built strong enough, you know, virtue and right view, it can, this power can feed into defilement. It's even in the suttas, you know.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So I think this idea of first emphasizing, it's actually even Ajahn Brahm, you know, talks about it in his like, I don't remember, it's like a little booklet where he writes or talks about several stages, you know, and he starts, first stage is present moment awareness, you know, but that's not interesting for him, so he just rushes over it quickly, and then he likes to talk about this beautiful breath and beautiful metta and bliss and all of that. Yeah, but that's only top of that pagoda, you know. The most of the people, like 99%, need to hear talking about this foundation, like present moment awareness, and keep talking only about it, you know. And it's actually interesting also, you know, it's also rewarding, you know. Because once you become present, it's pleasant, you know, it's the mind feels good, the mind becomes more emotionally stable, you are more able to control your emotions. If presence is strong enough, you notice when the heart starts sinking into like bad mood or some unpleasant experiencing based on some unskillful way of thinking, so you are able to stop it quickly. So yeah, just this foundation of present moment awareness is enough, and most of the people just need to really forget about blisses, you know, and nimittas and all of that. Yeah, because otherwise they might be misled.
About, I have like 2 more questions. The next one, thank you first for the first answer. Thank you. I have two more questions. First one, the first one is how we know that we have, for example, good, because you say that it's very important to build the 7 steps before. I agree 100% with that, but how to check the quality? How I will know that my right view is correct, has good quality? How I will know that my intentions, for example, also has good quality, I develop them enough? Is there any possibility to check this? How?
Yeah, there are many, several recommendations. Studying suttas helps, you know, reading you don't need to do it like terribly, you know, like study a lot, but like half an hour or 15 minutes a day reading one sutta or even one paragraph a day. That helps. Also associating with like-minded people and having contact with them amongst whom you trust and or nuns. And basically any element you add helps. And this is also a process of gradual training, you know, gradual growth of wisdom and of discernment. And again, it starts with the presence. If you maintain presence, then you start identifying what is skillful and what is not skillful more readily. And also, if the mind starts thinking in the way which is not in accordance with the right view, if the presence is strong enough, you are able to more quickly to identify it as something which is not in line with the right view. Yeah, many different things, you know, you can employ. And normally I would recommend you to be in the presence of Buddha as long as possible and as often as possible. But that's what we don't have now. So we need to take what we have. And one of those things are suttas. And if you know English, that's good, because you can get the words of Buddha, I think it's called. Its application, the whole Sutta Pitaka is basically available on smartphone. So you can any sutta you can read anytime, you
know. Thank you. And additional question, sometimes I find the present moment awareness like exhausting, that is consuming a lot of energy. Yeah, and it's sometimes for me it's very difficult to keep because of that, because I'm going to work and so on and so on. So any advice about that, Bante? What you will recommend for this kind of situation?
Yeah, if you notice that it feels exhausting, then you need to correct to do something about the effort, you know, something to change something about the effort, because actually presence is extremely easy. So if it's exhausting, you probably have too much ambition, you know. Maybe you have some kind of idea that you should be present continuously or for a long time. So you are probably trying too hard, you know. It's really so look into how you make effort. I suggest that the effort should be mainly directed at remembering, you know. So how do you remember to be present? Very, very strange. You know, so once you remember, then you may form this determination. Okay, now I try to keep remembering, you know, to be present. But the presence itself is extremely easy, you know. As soon as you remember, the presence is there. So basically, what kind of effort is that, you know? It's kind of very strange. Anyway, I have been wondering about this and trying to sort it out, what the right effort is, like for 20 years, you know, as a monk, you know, as professional, basically. And I am not sure whether I have right answer. It looks to me now like pretty good, this idea of yeah, where should effort be directed, you know. And I decided only maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago, that is actually really remembering. That is why the Buddha chose this word sati, memory, you know, which is translated as mindfulness into English, which doesn't say much. And in some languages like Czech, it's even worse, you know, the translation is hopeless. The one that was established in early 90s, which I was there when this sort of teacher came and translated sati, mindfulness, into Czech with this word, and it's a completely misleading translation. You know. in Polish, it looks like you have much better translation there, so it's not misleading, I think. But anyway, presence for me, I realized from the beginning, I knew I could not rely on Czech translations, you know, so I just hold them lightly. And as a translator, I was using this translation, which I now consider unfortunate. And so as translator of books in 90s, I was also using it. And then I became monk in 2000. And but from the beginning, I knew I needed to learn English, simply not to be dependent on Czech translators. So I learned English. And then when I was meditating as monk, I never relied too heavily on translations, whether Czech or English. You know, I knew that these words are not accurate, and I needed to discover actually what quality it is in my mind. You know, I need to see this quality of sati directly, and then I can decide which word is right for it. You know, which description is right. So, and this happened in about after only 4 years of continuous meditation, like 10 hours sitting meditation first year, and then 8 hours of sitting meditation second year. And then I kept it for a few years. And after 4 years of this, 52 weeks a year, you know, I suddenly understood, I think, in better way what this sati was. You know, I even remember the moment, you know. And then I talked about it to my teacher in Sri Lanka. What I saw, he confirmed. And a few days later, suddenly this word appeared in my mind as best description of that quality, and that's presence. You know, so since then I was using presence for a few years, and then I came across a teacher, Eckhart Tolle. Do you know him?
Yeah.
German teacher. Yeah, so he never uses the word mindfulness, you know, but he talks about presence all the time. So I realized that actually I was correct, you know, independently of him, I came up with this word as well. And then later I realized actually that it would be better even in English to talk about presence instead of mindfulness, even though mindfulness by itself is not misleading. It's actually quite good. Good word because it's very vague, so it's unlikely to mislead, but it also doesn't say much, you know, so it doesn't convey to English people what it is, which may be advantage, because then they have to also, they are forced to discover for themselves what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I answered.
Yeah, you answered. Yeah, yeah, that's clear that the right effort it should be about remembering to be present.
Yeah, basically, if you remember to be present and realize that you are exhausted, you know, so then you take this exhaustion as meditation object, like as a thing which you use to maintain presence. So then you look into this state of exhaustion, which may be felt in the body, or maybe in the mind, or in the heart, you know, exhaustion. And then you look back and you ask yourself, okay, how was this exhaustion caused? You know, what did I do to become this exhausted? You know, and is it possible to maintain presence while being relaxed?
Okay.
So then you do this, and then you also can remind yourself to be kind to yourself and not to expect too much, you know, because there are different situations throughout the day when maintaining presence is more difficult. Sometimes the other circumstances are more easy. So the most difficult is to maintain presence is when you are around people and when you have to talk to them, you know. So you are not too ambitious. You tell yourself, okay, this is quite difficult, so just I cannot do this perfectly, but first I try to maintain presence in circumstances which are easier, you know. So for instance, when you walk on the street, so then you may maintain a presence, or when you do something you know, washing dishes or something, that's also quite okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Maybe I can do some moderation. Sławek, would you like to ask a question? You were raising hand before. Sławek?
Yeah, I had some question. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I have some hopefully practical question about meditation, about breath meditation, because there is, you know, different approach to it. And for example, like Ajahn Brahm teach to not focus on any particular part of the body. And other side is like, for example, Ajahn Thanisaro, who teach to make effort to feel our breath in whole physical body, you know. So the question is, is it in your opinion too important to make this effort to connect this different sensations, because we have a lot of different sensations connected to breath, or just pick up one part, you know, just feel breath in the nose, and that's it. How it's your view on it?
Well, I think the most important is to feel comfortable with the breath. You know? So anyway, which is most comfortable for you, I think is the one. I think I would say it doesn't matter really whether it's in the whole body or whether it's like Mahasi watching the movement of belly, or with this this idea of watching the sensation of the nostrils. I think that's most risky for Westerners to develop, like pressures, you know, too much pressure in the head and so on. So yeah, basically it doesn't matter. Whatever you choose as the physical sensation to maintain presence is okay, I think.
Okay, but we watch like our physical sensations connected to breath. Yeah, that's what we should do.
You just ask yourself what I'm doing now. Is it in breath or out breath? And then the mind itself find something, some sensation, which tells it what it is. You know, whether it is in breath or out breath. So that's what you watch.
Okay, I'm also asking because there is this idea about Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali that actually our body is like an obstacle in meditation, and we need to get rid of it as soon as fast as is possible. So what do you think about this one? Like meditation is like they say that meditation is not about body, it's about mind. So I don't know.
I see. Well, I think it's you need to come to know both, you know. And if you read, for instance, Kayagata Sati Sutta, you know, in Majjhima Nikaya, only through that you can go all the way. And Anapanasati Sutta also, it's watching the breath, but also it's object which is sufficient for the whole path. So I don't know. I see the body as really important, and also, well, psychic powers and so on. It doesn't matter. And Kayanupassana is first Satipatthana, you know, and I would say that actually people, even if you just limit yourself to this first Satipatthana, Kayanupassana, it's enough, and it's actually safest, you know. But it's correct, you know. In the end, what we need to know well and come to know well is the mind. That's correct. But you cannot separate mind and body, at least in this human realm, you know. And it's at some stage it becomes very strange, you know, what is body and what is the mind. Some of the mental factors or mental qualities appear almost like physical thing. You know, it looks like it's in the body. And so I would say even in the suttas there are some hints that actually the line between mind and body is very fuzzy. You know, sometimes some of the stages of deep mental development are called like body witness. Have you heard that? I think it's one of the types of arahats. Not sure now. It's called body witness. So, you know, body is sometimes, kaya is sometimes mentioned in such a way that you just wonder why is there a body? It looks like mental thing, but why Buddha talks about body? So then there are some explanations like, okay, kaya, but in this context, it doesn't mean body, it means something else, like a body of water, you know, like in English. So it can be understood in more figurative sense, the body. But I would say the actually path to know the mind leads through knowing the body. But you know, different people have different tendencies, and Ajahn Brahm, I think, is very much into this. It's his way, you know, it's his character, but it doesn't apply to everybody, I would say, in the same way. And also how it was at some point he got this idea that it was necessary to fight for the revival of jhana practice, you know, and this happened a long time ago. And since then it became his trademark. So yeah, that is why he promotes samatha and jhana practice in this way, but it should be like balanced, you know.
Okay, maybe last one. Sorry for some controversial questions. I have a question about samatha and vipassana, because, you know, there is sometimes this disconnect, and sometimes like Ajahn Brahm, for example, says that samatha and vipassana is like actually same thing, or samatha leads to vipassana. So what you can say about this?
No, samatha definitely doesn't lead automatically to vipassana, as we talked about it beforehand. You know, the Devadatta, you know, he didn't. He had strong samadhi, he had psychic powers, amazing psychic powers, and what happened to him? You know, it didn't turn into vipassana and into wisdom. So what is this all about? But anyway, in this case, I quite agree with Ajahn Brahm that samatha and vipassana are basically like two sides of one thing, and basically they both of these two go together. You know, it's like two legs, you know, walking, and depending on each individual. For some, it's like samatha which goes first and then vipassana after, or for some people it's the other way around. And I would say actually the people should always emphasize the one which is weaker, you know. So if someone is samatha type, he should emphasize vipassana, and he uses samatha as aid, you know, as assistance. On the other hand, those who are like stronger in vipassana, they maybe put more effort into development of samatha, and they use this vipassana as support for it. But both of these need to be developed, and how, in what order, that's individual, I think.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, but the foundation is really this presence, you know. Okay. Foundation for both vipassana and samatha is presence. So first, presence has to be very well developed, and presence goes always with virya, you know, with energy or effort. These two things go always together. So this is like foundation for both samatha and vipassana.
Okay, now question from Michał. Michał, you there?
Yes. Thank you very much. I would like to ask about some.
You cannot turn the video on?
Yes, I can, sure.
Better.
It's here. Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. So here is the camera. Here I can see you. So maybe I will just.
I see. That's good. That's okay.
Okay. So now more safe. So I would like to ask you about some, let's say, strange experience in my practice because. I was, let's say, interested in meditation for quite long. So, more or less 1 year, I took the first contact with Theravada Buddhism, and that was really opening for me because before it was a different situation. So, right now I'm trying to go deeper in some kind of states in the meditation. Okay, so when I started, it was extremely pleasant. So it was like something like because before I was trying too much, as you said. I was trying to force myself for something, or to control my breath, but with a very strong way that I should slow down, for example. But then I met this Ajahn Brahm way, and that was very opening for me because I was not trying too much then. And then I just let my mind and body to be in the one consistent state together. That was very pleasant. And I had some experiences when I was able to, let's say, deconstruct my mind's appearance, thoughts that are appearing in my mind as kind of my embodied pleasures or something like that. That I feel that, for example, some kind of mind is coming to my mind, and this is correlated with my body. So I was trying to dissolve it in my body. And I was able to be in the very pleasant state of mind when all your thoughts and all your body is together very relaxed. And that was very pleasant. But then I met something like in the moment, it was correlated with some maybe not pleasant actions in my life. That's some kind of energy that was very strong, that is somewhere around me or something like this. That this is kind of ball of energy somewhere. And I was not able to dissolve it with my breath or anything like that. So I heard about this way of feeding this kind of stuff with a metta. And that was very helpful. But after some time, I realized that when I'm trying to go into this deeper state of mind, because a lot of my meditation in that time was solving some kind of problems or ideas, deconstructing some stuff. And that was very aware and pure, and I was able to do stuff. But it was not about the more inner perspective. That was more like doing things. But when I was trying to go into this pure state of mind, then I realized that all my body is, I have a horrible pain here, for example, or here. So when I'm not practicing,
that's what you deserve.
I thought, okay, so
no, I can tell you a little bit some reflection. what we are not trying to get into deeper states, you know. That's not correct attitude towards meditation. You just what we are trying to develop besides those 5 faculties is also contentment, you know. So you just set the mind in the present state, and whatever comes, you are if you notice discontent, you know, if you notice, then you are trying to counter that and tell yourself, okay, this is enough, this is okay, I accept it, you know, and you just develop this contentment. And through the contentment, the mind eventually goes deeper, you know. But if you happen to experience some deeper state, and after that you want to get it back, and then you make efforts to go there back, and so on, this is wrong idea. The deeper states come and go, and you just watch them come and go, and you are trying to maintain contentment. And as the contentment grows, this is also quality which actually we are trying to maintain and grow. And as the contentment grows, the deeper states are happening more often. And through, only through the depth of contentment and also enough momentum of contentment, like deep states of samadhi are possible, you know. It's not through trying to get them, you know, it's through maintaining balance, maintaining contentment, allowing the 5 faculties to grow and waiting. It's like growing.
So I will maybe explain one thing, because it was something like you are going into this state of meditation and you have your minds. They are related with a lot of, let's call it, problems that you are solving in your life, in your job.
You mean, you mean external problems?
Yeah, external problems. So I'm trying to go beyond of that. Okay, let's wait with this. I have time to solve this problem. Okay, then you are trying to put them for later or something like that. And then this, let's say, peace will come, but with that, instead of this very pleasant, you know, relaxation, is appearing a pain.
Yeah, and you are just aware of it. Your task is to be aware of it, and if there is discontent about that pain, you're just aware of that too. Also, okay, discontent. Okay, discontent. Well, what I do, I sometimes bring death reflection into my mind. You know, like death will come, and it's most likely to be physically unpleasant. You know, so this meditation is also training or preparation for death. You know, because what decides where we are reborn, and also what decides whether we are reborn is what we are doing at the time of death. So how we are able to relate to discomfort in the body. So we can use meditation now when we are still hopefully far away from death. So if any discomfort in the body arises, we can use it as kind of training for death. It's also useful, you know. So what you are saying, is that you feel peaceful in the mind, but at the same time you have discomfort in the body.
Yes, for example, after 2 days ago, I was meditating, and from 2 days ago, I had the shoulders, the head is very painful. Maybe this is something, I don't know, with my neck. I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of situation when I'm relaxing, putting head down or something like this, and then it appears. It's hard to say, but I'm trying to identify this problem, but it appears from some time. So it's not so obvious that, okay, I'm putting head like this, and then I have a headache or something like this. So I'm looking for the different, you are trying that maybe I'm not.
You are trying to sort out why you feel this pain in the body.
Yeah, but explicitly in the moment when I'm going to be, relaxed and mindful during the meditation. So this is something when I'm on this surface of the meditation, when, thoughts are coming and you're aware of it and they are playing with you and stuff like that. So you can solve some problem. And so that's okay. No pain, no any obstacle. Also some kind of pleasant and non-pleasant sensation in the body. That's very, playful. That's very nice, some kind. But when I'm trying to go, to put them aside and go deeper in some kind of, more pure state, when those are not be so intense, then instead of this, a few months ago, it was just like fresh air or something like this. The area when you feel very, very
okay, and now
it's pain. Yeah.
So when you are thinking and dealing with thoughts, there is no pain. But once you manage to go more in deeper state, suddenly physical pain comes to surface.
Yeah.
I see.
That's very strange for me.
That's interesting. So I guess this is some kind of energy which is coming out of the bodies. It may be some experiences in the past or some bad karma which is manifesting in this way. I think it's not really dangerous or anything. It happens to many people, when they go deeper, suddenly some pains come from it. It usually dissolves itself after some time, but it dissolves quickly if you manage to just watch it with equanimity, with contentment. If you don't fight it.
Okay, I will try.
You might try to just watch it, to take this pain as an object to maintain presence, and what I do, I usually try to look into the most intense spot, where the pain is most intense. I try to find the how is it called? Epicenter. And see that.
Yeah. So, but also there is one question maybe related with that, because quite often it starts from something that I feel a lot of energy. Also in that moment. So, for example, when I'm meditating in the night, then I cannot sleep. It's just like I'm, so much open
energy.
My eyes are like so. Yeah, and then all those things also are going to be, much more intense, because then you are not sleeping very well. You have your pain and things like that, and it's continuously for some time. So.
I see. Life is dukkha.
Exactly.